Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all today to the International Climate Control Conference.
I've never been happier on a Zoom or on a panel than today. This is really honest because I think really something can be actually done here. I think millions of tons of carbon can be saved. It's a kind of a moral authority, ethical authority, which comes from integrity. And integrity, in my opinion, is mostly a kind of strong overlap or strong cohesion between saying and doing. Because I think that it's a dangerous position to speak without taking action. We really need, as a collective action, insurances, conservators, museum professionals need to say, okay, there was a game of telephone. This is not necessarily helpful. It can vary much more than plus minus five degrees. And we need to get our carbon emissions down. And, you know, for doing the good deed, we'll even save some money. I think climate control is then the pinnacle of a certain 20th century attitude, is that we've produced places of culture and culture only. We have to create places or institutions which are interwoven, that's a good word, I think, with everything that surrounds them.
We turn off 49% of all our climate system.
Wow.
And it has no effect. Yeah. It has no effect on the conditions in the galleries. We have energy consumption reduction of 10% of our total energy consumption.
Many collections have been proof to wide climate fluctuations. They've seen everything, and any cracks that are going to form have formed. And the likelihood of you actually making these things more cracked is extremely low. Microenvironments, when you do a full risk analysis over 100 years, are the only thing that's going to give you total reliability.
So like other people, I've kind of questioned this idea of these ideal conditions, these magic numbers. We've known for a long time that +/4, +/5 was based on technological possibility, not object risk. So it's enough, we know enough to dismiss this idea that +/5 is some kind of gold standard. We saw cases of institutions where conservators and registrars were both personally on board with broadening climate parameters in their institution, but each one assumed that the other would never agree to it. And of these themes of imagined conflict, imagined harmony, and professional humility demonstrate the adverse effects of relying on assumptions made about the intentions and desires of colleagues, needlessly preventing positive changes and mutually beneficial outcomes, with many, many people saying that they follow the industry standard, without being able to say where the numbers come from in their particular situation or how they compare to up-to-date research.
If you ask scientists to look at the object and said whether the change is happening due to unstable climatic conditions, I can tell you that we will always find some change. Because if we go to the smaller and smaller and smaller scale, there is always some change. If you want to have no change, you have to have an object completely in the dark and 0 Kelvin and not any interaction at all.
This 60/60 law led to big damage to collection as it was applied blindly in museums all over the world. When, in fact, Dr. Plopos Plendelis was proposing them only for museums in UK. Those rigorous levels were unattainable and dangerous. To conclude, climate control is only one aspect of preventive conservation, which covers 60 other causes of deterioration.
A mark of professionalism has been to have ever more stringent standards, and it's often what I call a one-way ratchet. And professional culture, and it's not just conservators, it's collection managers and so on, everybody's trying to behave professionally, but when the professional direction around standards is one way, in other words, tighter standards, then that makes loans much more difficult. We need to be unprofessional.
Love it. I love that.
In a really positive way.
I love that.
And I really liked it because it was a very provocative phrase, because it usually the last thing you'd ever want to be is unprofessional.
Heaven forbid, right?
Being unprofessional in this instance, when we know what we mean about professional culture being a hindrance.
Yeah.
Let's be less professional and more realistic and honest. We do have the power to make change, and I think we sometimes hold ourselves back.
Last spring, we really start the very serious conversation whether, we should really review in depth our temperature and relative humidity standards. So, what you can see in this diagram on the right side, it shows really our previous climate parameters. We are negotiating right now. We are explaining what we are doing this step, why we are making this decision. And I mean, we are very positive about the final outcome. And what we know for sure is that if there is any lender that insists that previous older parameters need to be in place, this work will be removed from the checklist. And what we expect is to be able to save about 20,000 euros of cost every month by this, this change of parameters.
Experience, and not just experience, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use the right word, but boldness counts. So we should have more self-confidence that we are progressing. Now, the climate changes, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the problems the society is living now because of the very dramatic climate issues and accidents and problems that we are all living. It's more pressing this, but it's still taking a long time, since we are talking about this, at least since 2002, it's been 20 years already since we are talking, and we still see museum directors, lenders, and several actors within this ecosystem still pursuing strict climate conditions. I think that boldness,
I love
that's
that.
the word boldness. I mean, we need to be a little bit more bold.
Number one, it's no longer a question about whether we should broaden parameters in consideration of the climate crisis. The climate emergency is our top priority. And without doing everything we can to mitigate the climate emergency, we will have no collections or communities left to engage with.
Change is not about compromise. We're not making changes because at the expense of our collections, but actually we're just moving towards better collections care practices if we move towards more bespoke conditions. Everybody really is on the same page with this, and that we really are ready to make some change.